Hi everyone. So today's topic of discussion is basically what is a Vostro account, how India is trying to lessen its dependency on the US dollar, and how it is trying to strengthen the Indian rupee. Right. So what is Vostro account? Now you might have heard in recent times that after the declaration of war on Ukraine by Russia, there were many sanctions posed on the country, and obviously they are now out of the SWIFT system, and a lot of their money is stuck in the US bank accounts, and obviously they can't do the trade. Right now, to do trade with Russia, India introduced the concept of a Vostro account, which is very similar to the SWIFT payment system, but here uh, countries like Russia can open their accounts. So banks in countries like Russia, they can open their accounts in Indian banks, and they can transact with India in Indian rupee, right? So now countries don't have to go through US dollar conversion system to transact between each other. Now what how is it useful? It basically helps in reducing the cost of transaction between both the countries. And it's also more transparent, and it lessens the dependency on dollar. And also I think that the transactions are much more faster, and it will strengthen the Indian rupee overall. How? Let's say there is a bank, there's a Russian bank, right? And they have an account with Vostro account in an Indian bank, which holds their money in rupees. And then we have a trader in India who also has an account, special Vostro account that holds the amount in rupees itself, right? Now, if an Indian exporter needs to get its money in rupees, then that Russian account can directly settle that payment in rupees because they already have an account in India, right? Similarly, if an importer has to do a payment in rupees, they can directly transact between their Vostro accounts, and that payment can be settled within those account itself. So there's no need to go through another currency transaction system, and no need to convert the amount, right? Now, why is it important? It is important because, as you see in the past, even if you see in the past 5 6 years, since 2017, 18, 19, the value of dollar has gone really up in comparison to Indian rupee, right? So it was around 63, 64 rupees, and now it's around 83, 84 rupees, right? So doing payment in dollars is obviously much more costlier than directly doing the payments in INR, right? Now, having a Vostro account is actually very helpful if India is at trade surplus with a certain country, right? Why? Because if we are at a trade surplus, we will get more money, foreign currency, into the country rather than what we are paying for. So it is not that good if you are if we are a trade deficit. Obviously we are at trade deficit with countries like China, Russia. There are other countries like Switzerland, Saudi Arabia, Iran. Sorry, not Iran, Iraq, Indonesia. So we are at trade deficit with all these countries, but we are also at trade surplus with countries like US, UAE, Hong Kong, uh, United Kingdoms, Vietnam, right? So all these places where we are at trade surplus, this system is really helpful, and these countries are very much interested in joining us in opening a Vostro account, especially Sri Lanka and Malaysia are the ones who want to open their accounts with us after Russia. You have many Middle East countries, you have various East Asian countries, you have Venezuela. All these countries are very much interested to bypass the US system, the US dollar conversion system, and directly deal in Indian rupee with us. So that's again very good, right? Now, while I shed some light upon the trade deficit and trade surplus, it's also imperative to know where we currently stand in those scenarios, right? So if I talk about the first quarter of 22-23, we versus the last quarter of 21-22, we had almost a trade surplus of $24 billion versus $14 billion. So that's almost double, around 40% increase in the trade deficit. and we were at a surplus of about just $6.6 billion for the first quarter of 22-23. So that is just around 0.9%, right? So that means we are at more trade deficit than trade surplus. So that's a concern. Now most of that trade deficit comes from China. So we are like 40% of that trade deficit is contributed by China itself, from where the maximum contributors are the machineries, electronics is basically 30%, right? So we have to take care of the trade deficits basically. But in the recent times, how it gets mitigated is by the services that we provide to other countries, plus the foreign remittances that we get, the secondary income that comes into India. All those usually more or less level the trade deficit, right? But it is still at 3%, even after the second quarter of 22-23, right? So Vostro is very important in strengthening the overall economy, because the dependency on the dollar depletes, and it is easier and more beneficial to pay directly in INR, in Indian rupee, rather than converting it into dollar and then paying it to the other country in dollars, which is currently happening, right? Many countries, like almost all countries, want to accept the payments in dollars. So that's why US dollar is so strengthened, right? But as the gap between INR and US dollar increases, so we are paying much more for each dollar, right? We are paying at 84 rupees for each dollar versus what we were paying for maybe 5 years back, when we were paying 63. So obviously that decreases the strength of our rupee versus dollar, and obviously why would we pay more for a particular service just because the currency accepted by the other country is some other country, right? So I think overall, if this concept is elaborated, and this is adapted by more countries who come and want to trade better with India, and we decrease our dependency on other countries like China for our product requirements, especially electronics, semiconductors, machineries, organic chemicals, plastics. So if we reduce our trade deficit and try to increase our trade surplus, we will definitely strengthen our rupee, right? So I hope this concept was helpful. It is a very important concept. Vostro account concept is really important in terms of the whole world economy and world trade. And countries like Russia are currently working with us. We have Malaysia and Sri Lanka coming up, and many countries are interested in it, right? So I hope you like the video. Please like, share, and comment. And thank you.